You've ever been out on the road so long the horizon starts playing tricks on you? That's how it was for Mitch Grady's 61 years old, 38 of those behind the wheel of a rig. No kids, no wife anymore. Just him and Sammy, his blue tick coonhound, usually curled up in the passenger seat. But this time, Sammy was laid up with a bad leg back in Missouri. That truck felt mighty empty without the sound of soft snoring coming from the other seat. It was just before midnight when Mitch found himself on some two-lane blacktop halfway between Kansas and nowhere. Moon high, stars sharp, radio static, thermos of burnt coffee keeping his right hand busy, and the hum of tires on asphalt lulling his brain into a trance. Then came the orange signs. Detour ahead, route closed, road work, all those ugly, blinking warnings. Mitch slowed the rig, squinting down at his phone. GPS was frozen. Spinning wheel. No signal. He cursed under his breath. No towns nearby. Not even one of those sketchy 24-hour gas stations with the flickering fluorescence and the dusty shelves. Then he saw it. The sign. It wasn't new. Hell, it wasn't even readable at first. It's just a rusted slab of metal hiding behind overgrown weeds and a busted fence post. But the closer he got, the more he could make it out. HWY 47. Damn, he muttered. He hadn't thought of that road in years. He'd heard about 47 from other drivers back in the day. Guys who swore they took it once and never would again. Said it was cursed. Said weird stuff happened out there. People gone missing. Whole stretches of time lost. One guy said he drove it for what felt like 10 minutes and ended up 4 states over with no memory of how. Another swore he saw a little girl standing in the middle of the road at 3 a.m., waving like she was hitching a ride, but her eyes were all wrong. But you know how truckers talk. Every route's got its ghost story. And Mitch didn't spook easy. So when the only other option was to backtrack 30 miles to the last major exit, Mitch did what he always did. He pushed forward. He cranked the wheel and turned onto 47. Right away, the air changed. The road felt smoother than it should have been for something so old. Its trees closed in a little tighter on both sides. The moonlight dimmed like it was behind a fogged-up window. Even though the sky was still clear, he passed a weather-worn mile marker 47A. It said, no reflectors, no streetlights, just blacktop ahead and silence in every direction. Reckon this won't take long, Mitch said to himself, tapping the steering wheel. But the quiet didn't sit right. Mitch had spent decades on the road, and the one thing he could count on was noise. Crickets, coyotes, the occasional owl or rattler under the tires. But out here, nothing. No wind. No night sounds. Just the soft rumble of his engine and the low hiss of tires on pavement. He flicked on the radio to cut the silence. Static. Flipped through AM and FM. Nothing. He checked the dashboard clock. 12:09 a.m. It had been 12:09 the last time he looked, huh? The rig rolled on a long, lazy curve to the left, then another. The trees seemed to lean in a little more with every mile. He passed a beat-up old gas station boarded up, no lights, a rusted-out sign swinging in the windless air. It looked like it hadn't seen business in 40 years. Creepy-ass place, he muttered, adjusting the AC. Then he saw the first figure, far ahead on the side of the road. Just barely visible in the reach of his headlights, a man, standing, still, facing the woods, wearing a jacket too thick for the weather, his posture stiff like he was frozen in time. Mitch slowed, narrowing his eyes as the rig approached. The man didn't turn, didn't move. And just when the light should have hit his face, he vanished, like smoke in the wind, gone. Mitch single quotes, skin prickled. Just a shadow, he told himself. Too damn tired. Long hours. But he was gripping the wheel harder now. He kept going. Another mile, maybe 2. Another figure. A woman this time, hair hanging long and limp over her shoulders. She was standing on the middle stripe of the road, barefoot, facing him, head tilted just enough to seem wrong. Her dress was torn dirty. Her arms were hanging loose like she was asleep on her feet. And just like the man before, she disappeared as soon as his lights reached her. Mitch felt a cold sweat break out across his brow. His mouth went dry. He drove on. "Okay," he muttered. "Okay, I'm just tired. Need coffee? Find a place to pull over. Something. Anything." But there was nothing. No signs. No exits. It's just the same stretch of road over and over again. And when he glanced in the mirror, his heart almost stopped. The road behind him, it was empty. No lines, no trees, just blackness, like he'd been swallowed whole. Now, if Mitch hadn't been driving trucks as long as he had, he might have pulled over and lost his mind right there. But road dogs like him, they're wired different. Years on the highway teach you to push through exhaustion, weird weather, even weirder people. What they don't teach you is what to do when the road starts watching back, because that's exactly what it felt like. Like the trees had eyes, like the pavement itself was remembering things. He checked the time again. It's 12:09 a.m. Still, he hit the dashboard like that would wake something up. Phone still dead. GPS stuck, spinning. Radio was just static, except it wasn't just static anymore. It had changed. Deep in the fuzz, underneath the hiss, there was a voice. Faint, like someone whispering in a tunnel. He leaned in. Mitch, his name. He jerked back, slammed the radio off, and stared at the dial like it had grown teeth. "Nope," he said aloud. "Nope, nope, nope." Then he saw the walkers. At first, just one. A tall guy in coveralls, walking along the shoulder, on the right. Mitch slowed down out of instinct. You don't want to clip someone in the dark, even a weirdo. But when his headlights passed over the guy, Mitch's stomach dropped. The man's eyes were gone, empty sockets, black as oil. And his skin too pale, like someone who hadn't seen the sun in decades. Mitch didn't stop. A minute later, he saw two more. A woman in a waitress uniform, holding the hand of a small child. They were walking in perfect sync, step for step. Neither of them blinked, neither turned their head. He blew past them going 50. Then 5 more showed up. Then a dozen. They were everywhere now, dotting the roadside like mile markers. Some waved at him. Some reached toward the truck. One man stepped into the road like he wanted to get hit, and Mitch had to swerve hard to avoid him. "Jesus," I shouted, heart pounding. They weren't just there anymore. They were moving closer. At one point, woman ran alongside his truck for nearly 30 seconds. Barefoot, sprinting through the grass, her mouth open in a silent scream, but her eyes locked on Mitch, like she knew him. He floored it. 65, 70. The speedometer crept up as fast as his nerves broke down. But no matter how fast he drove, the road didn't end. It just stretched on and on, like it was rebuilding itself right under his tires. The same twisted trees, the same curve, the same broken mile marker every few minutes. For 7A, again and again, and the walkers never stopped. Some waved, some cried, some begged, but the one that finally broke him, the one that made Mitch's hands tremble on the wheel, his eyes burn, his chest tighten, was Sammy Todd standing right in the middle of the road, just beyond the next bend. Mitch slammed the brakes. Tires screamed. The whole truck fishtailed. Gravel spit out from under his wheels as he brought it to a shuddering stop. He jumped down from the cab, yelling Sammy, and, sure enough, there he was, tail wagging slow, tongue hanging out, just like always, except his eyes were wrong, clouded, not blind, just dead dot. Mitch took a step forward, and Sammy disappeared, like the rest. blinked right out of existence. Mitch stood there in the middle of that god-forsaken highway, breathing hard, the engine ticking behind him. And that's when he heard it again. The whisper. This time, it came from everywhere. Like the wind was full of mouths. Mitch, Mitch, come back. Mitch. He backed up slowly toward the truck. A hand grabbed his ankle. He screamed and looked down, kicking instinctively. Nothing there but the print of a hand-long, thin fingers was left in the dust on his boot. That was enough. Mitch scrambled back into the cab, slammed the door, and locked it like a child afraid of the dark. His breathing was shallow. His heart pounded in his throat, and as he looked up, every one of the walkers was now on the road, standing still, blocking every lane, just staring at him. You ever stare into a crowd of people and feel like they're not really there? That's what it felt like for Mitch, sitting in the cab, every hair on his body standing on end, looking through a windshield at what had to be 2, maybe 3D eyes. People all just standing, some in overalls, some in uniforms from diners or gas stations long shut down, some dressed like they were from decades ago, a few barefoot, few bloody. One guy still had what looked like a fireman's jacket on, but it was melted, charred black, like it had fused to his skin. They didn't move. They didn't blink. They didn't breathe. Mitch didn't know what to do. He couldn't exactly drive through them, not that he hadn't thought about it. But his foot stayed frozen above the gas pedal. Then something else happened. Something worse. The cab filled with sound, not music. Not voices, not the wind. It was like a tangle of noises, all layered on top of each other. Screams, crashes, metal twisting, tires screeching, children crying. It wasn't coming from the radio. It was in the air, rattling around in the cab like it had come alive. He covered his ears, but it was no use. Then, just as fast as it started, it stopped. Dead silence, until Mitch snapped his head up. The figures were closer now. Of them, still staring. Mitch. They whispered again, this time not from one place, but from inside the cab. Like the voices were tucked into the wiring, stitched into the very engine of the truck. You were supposed to be one of us. He jammed the rig into gear and floored it. The figures didn't even flinch, but they didn't have to dot, because now the road changed. It twisted like something alive. Asphalt rippled under his tires, the lines stretching and warping. He tried to stay straight, but it was like driving on the back of a giant snake, constant motion. No sense of direction. Then came the visions. Every flash of his headlights now lit up a different scene. Not the road ahead memories. He saw a red sedan wrapped around a tree, flames licking out from under the hood. A family, mom, dad, little boy in the back seat, all unmoving, all staring at him. Next, flash an overturned bus in a ditch, windows shattered, kids slumped against the glass, faces pale, eyes open and empty. Next, dashed to semis, jackknifed across a bridge. Blood on the pavement, rain pouring. A man crawling toward a broken CB radio, and every time he heard whispers. Help us, come with us. You drive this road now, Mitch. He gripped the wheel so hard, his knuckles cracked. This ain't real. This ain't real, he kept muttering. Just a dream. Just a damn hallucination. Maybe the coffee was bad. Maybe I fell asleep. But deep down, Mitch knew better. You don't dream smells. And he could smell it all: burnt rubber, diesel, smoke, coppery blood. He checked the clock. Still 12:09 a.m. It hadn't moved. And then, the cab filled with a high-pitched screech, like a CB radio losing its mind. His old unit hadn't worked in years, but now it lit up like it had just been wired fresh. A voice crackled through it, broken and raw. Breaker. Mitch, can you hear me? He stared at it. Another voice jumped in. Don't listen to them, Mitch. You're not dead yet. Then silence. He reached for the CB mic, hand trembling. Who is this? Nothing. Just white noise. Then the window fogged up. Not outside. Inside, like someone was breathing right. Next to him, and on the fogged up glass, a finger traced 5 chilling words. You were in the wreck. The headlights show everything. There's something about seeing your name written on a fogged up window that wasn't fogged 2 seconds ago that makes you stop questioning reality. Mitch sat frozen, staring at the words. You were in the wreck. His breath caught in his throat. His first thought was they're wrong. He'd been driving safe all night. Alert. He hadn't crashed. He'd remember something like that, right? But something deep in his gut, the kind of feeling you don't argue with, was starting to whisper. That maybe ... Maybe something had happened. Maybe he just didn't want to see it. He wiped the window clean, hands shaking. The road stretched ahead, but now it looked wrong. Wider, slicker, like fresh tar had been poured over it. And the shoulders were lined with those walkers again, barely visible in the edge of the headlights, watching. But it was the light itself. That was the real problem now, because his headlights had started showing things they weren't supposed. 2 things that weren't there until he looked. First, it was brief flashes like photos in the dark. 1 second, there's nothing. Next second, you see a woman crushed under an overturned hatchback, staring straight up with cloudy eyes. Then it's gone again. The road looks normal, quiet, empty. He hit the high beams, and that's when the road lit up like a graveyard. There were bodies, not real ones, not physical, anyway, but images, ghostly, half-transparent, dozens of them. Some crawling across the pavement, some slumped over steering wheels of invisible cars. One was just a hand, reaching out from the gravel. On the shoulder, like it was still trying to flag someone down. He swerved, even though he knew they weren't solid. Couldn't help it. They looked too real, and they were all looking at him. Now, every single face turned as the truck passed by. All of them locked eyes with Mitch, as if they knew exactly who he was. The CB crackled again. This time, it wasn't static, it was voices overlapping, layered on top of each other, like a crowd shouting at once, but somehow forming a single, unified whisper. We showed you. Now you show us. Okay. Mitch slammed the heel of his hand against the dash. Show you what? He yelled, voice cracking. I don't know what the hell this is. And the road answered at first. It's just a glimmer. Then a full scene. His own headlights painted it in full color. A red 97 Ford Taurus upside down in the median. Smoke curling up from under the hood. Broken glass glittering in the grass. A blue backpack laying open on the asphalt. Teddy bear half hanging out. It's the back door torn clean off Dot. And in the driver's seat or at least someone who looked an awful lot like him. Blood down the side of his face. One hand still gripping the steering wheel, mouth hanging open. Mitch's stomach flipped. He blinked, rubbed his eyes. When he looked back, the road was empty again, but that image was burned into his brain. I never drove a damn Taurus, he muttered. That wasn't me. That's not me. But even he didn't believe it. The whispers in the wind returned, fainter now. Satyr, you took the shortcut. You didn't stop. You left them there. More images in the headlights. A family car rear-ended on a stormy night. Motorcycle tangled in a guardrail. A pickup truck that had flipped off a bridge. The road wasn't just showing him ghosts. It was showing him memories. Accidents he'd passed. Ones he'd told himself weren't his problem. He remembered the Taurus now he had seen it. Somewhere in Colorado. Late at night, it slowed down but didn't stop. Thought he saw someone moving, but the wreck looked old. Figured someone else would have called it in. But what if they hadn't? What if no one ever did? He reached for the radio again, almost afraid of what would answer. Is this ... punishment, he whispered. This is reckoning, the voice on the other end replied. This is what you missed, what you ignored, what you left behind. The air grew heavier, like he was driving through molasses. The truck engine groaned, and up ahead, there was a sign. It flickered like it didn't belong, half buried in the ditch. But he read it plain as day. Exit to rest. Join the lost. And beneath it, scratched in what looked like restore, maybe blood, 3 words. Nitrogen, way back, the last stop. Mitch slammed his fist against the wheel. His heart pounded harder than it ever had before. He could feel the sweat dripping down the back of his neck, pooling in the small of his back. But he couldn't seem to focus on anything except a growing sense of dread that was tightening around his chest. No way back. The sign had been clear. The road had been clear. But the voice, the whispers, the phantom images, they were all pointing to the same thing. He was trapped. Mitch gripped the wheel tighter. He didn't know how much more of this he could take. Every mile seemed to bleed into the next, but there was no escape. The highway stretched ahead, endless, a serpent winding through the dark like it had been drawn in by some malevolent hand. He glanced at the GPS again. Same thing, 12:09 a.m. The time hadn't moved in hours. How long had he been on this road? The truck engine hummed beneath him, but the sound was becoming distorted, like it was being muted by something pulling it back. He could hear the tires on the asphalt, but it sounded far off, distant. Then came the rumble, not from the engine, but from beneath the road. It's like something large was moving, pushing up from underneath the earth. Mitch felt the tremor in his seat, felt it in his bones. Ahead, the dim outline of another road sign emerged from the mist. Last stop ahead. He didn't even slow down. What was the point? Every turn he made led him here, to this same road, to this same destination. Teague. Didn't matter whether he took the exit, or the curve, or the straightaway. He was stuck. There was no way forward, no way out. A cold gust of wind slammed against the side of the truck, rattling the mirrors. Blind. Mitch cursed and leaned forward to look out the windshield. The road ahead stretched out, but it wasn't a road anymore. It was an opening, a vast, hollow space filled with darkness. It was like looking into the mouth of a cave, and from that darkness, figures began to emerge. They didn't walk like normal people. They glided, drifted toward him, their bodies swaying in rhythm with the breeze, their heads turned slightly to the side, as if they were all listening to something Mitch couldn't hear. One of them, no, not one of them. Mitch was wearing a tattered jacket, its sleeves torn and jagged. The face was shadowed, but Mitch could make out the hollow eyes that seemed to burn right through him. The figure whispered something. You should have listened. Mitch's hands gripped the wheel so tight his fingers turned white. His heart was hammering in his chest. But it wasn't just the fear now. No. Now he could feel something else's strange pull, like something was calling him. He tried to put the truck in reverse, but the gear shift felt ... wrong. Stiff. He yanked it, but the truck wasn't moving. Not backward, not forward. He was locked in place. That's when he saw it. In the rearview mirror, another set of headlights were coming. But this wasn't a truck. This wasn't a car. It was a black shape, flickering in and out like a shadow at the edges of his vision. The whispering grew louder. More voices layered on top of each other. Mitch, you can't leave, okay? The road is you now. It was happening again. The truck's lights flickered, okay, and then went out. The darkness around him swallowed the truck whole. He didn't scream. He didn't have time, okay? But his blood ran cold, because in that moment, Mitch realized he couldn't see anything at all. No headlights, no stars, No road, just blackness. And then there was the sound of 100 people, breathing, moving, whispering, like they were all around him. Come with us. Join us. The road will never let you go. Then there was a voice that cut through it all clear, distinct, and louder than the rest. It was the same voice Mitch had heard on the radio, the one that had asked him if he was listening, the one that had warned him, the one that had told him to stay on course. It was the voice of the driver who had been here before him. Mitch, the voice said, this is it. This is the last stop. Once you take the turn, once you accept the invitation, there's no going back. The road keeps you. The spirits of the lost. They need someone to guide them. The figure in front of the truck stepped closer, blocking his view of the road. The truck's lights flickered back to life, illuminating the figure's face for just a second. It was a man, but his face was a mask of ash, twisted in an endless scream. His eyes were wide, his mouth open as if trying to speak, but no words came out. The air grew thick, the figures closed in, and Mitch realized with a sickening jolt, the last stop was not a place. It was a point of no return. The truck's engine hummed softly, almost too quietly. Mitch could feel the vibrations beneath him, the only sign that he wasn't suspended in complete nothingness. His heart was pounding, but it was growing faint, distant, as if it didn't belong to him anymore. As if his very existence was starting to slip through his fingers. The road was gone. The signs were gone. The headlights barely cut through the darkness now, casting long shadows across the truck's interior. He didn't know how long he had been driving, or even if he was still driving at all. Was he moving? Was the truck still even on the ground? The whispers were louder now. The voices overlapped in a horrible cacophony, growing more insistent with every passing second. You can't turn back, Mitch. The road is endless, forever, with you in it. Join us. His hands were slick with sweat on the wheel. His pulse was a steady drumbeat in his ears, but it felt like it was coming from someone else. Mitch slammed his foot on the brake. The truck lurched forward and then slid, as if the tires had lost all grip on reality. He leaned forward, peering through the windshield, hoping to see anything that would let him know he wasn't alone in the darkness. Ahead, a small glow appeared, barely visible at first, but slowly brightening like the distant light of a distant city. The glow steadied, and Mitch's gut tightened with dread. The light grew larger, and Mitch realized it wasn't coming from any city or town. It was coming from a single point ahead, a streetlight. No, not a streetlight, a signpost. A new road had appeared before him. The sign glowed in the darkness, casting a sickly, greenish hue over everything. It was simple. It's just a faded arrow pointing to the right. Turn here. Mitch's breath hitched in his throat. His hand hovered over the wheel. The whispers weren't as urgent anymore. They were soft now, almost welcoming. It's your choice, Mitch. You can join us now. We'll never leave you. The road has been waiting for you. As mind raced, but the cold terror in his chest began to settle into something else, a hollow emptiness that wrapped around his soul. He was starting to understand. The road wasn't just cursing. It was alive. It wanted him. It needed him. Mitch's eyes moved to the sign, to the arrow, to the road that beckoned. A moment of hesitation gripped him. He could feel it in his bones. This was the moment that would define everything. He wasn't sure if he was supposed to turn, but he was sure of one thing. If he didn't turn, the road would make him. It would stretch on forever, pulling him deeper into the dark until there was nothing left of him but a memory on the wind. He made up his mind. The wheel jerked beneath his hands as he forced the truck to turn. For a split second, the world outside seemed to shudder. The air pressed down on him. The lights of the truck flickering as the road seemed to twist and ripple like water. Then, in an instant, everything snapped into place. He was driving again. But the world was different. The road stretched out endlessly ahead of him, but it was no longer a highway. So it was a narrow dirt path lined with dead trees that seemed to groan in the wind. Their twisted branches reached out like skeletal hands, scraping against the sides of the truck. But they didn't leave any marks. And then the truck's headlights flashed across something, no, someone, a figure standing at the side of the road. Mitch's breath caught in his throat. It was him, the man from the radio, the one who had spoken to him, the one who had told him about the last stop. He was standing there, staring directly at Mitch, his face hidden beneath the brim of a weathered cap. But Mitch could see the hollow eyes, the crooked smile. The man raised a hand, slow and deliberate. He motioned for Mitch to come closer. It was impossible to resist. Mitch slowed the truck, pulling to a stop just inches from the man. His heart was pounding, but it wasn't from fear anymore. It was anticipation. Something in the back of his mind, something dark, twisted, and ancient knew this was the end of the road. The final chapter. He threw open the door. The man didn't move. Mitch stepped out, feeling the cold air swirl around him. He could see the man clearly now. He was wearing the same tattered jacket, the same hollow eyes, but there was something different about him now. He wasn't alone. Behind him, emerging from the shadows, were the others, the figures, the lost souls. Hundreds of them, standing silently in the darkness, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the truck. The man in the cap spoke. "You came. You're one of us now." Mitch swallowed hard. The road, the highway was gone. All that remained was this place, this waiting place. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words didn't come. All he could do was stand there, his legs locked in place, as if he was becoming part of the earth beneath him, as if his feet were sinking into the road itself. The whispers returned, louder than ever. "You can't leave. You're one of the lost now. The road needs you." The man stepped closer, raising a hand toward Mitch's chest. The air was thick, suffocating. Mitch couldn't move, and then he heard it roar. The rumbling that came from beneath the earth, the sound of something enormous, something hungry, breaking through the surface. The road beneath his feet shifted, cracked, and in that moment, Mitch knew there was no going back. There was no turning away. The road had claimed him,